Hello and welcome to the first VMK in the network series. This series is going to focus on how to transmit and receive data over the network. I'll be using WinSock to perform all the network operations, and I'll be showing you how to do the network communication in a few different ways. Inside Photoshop here, I'll just quickly describe some of the things that I want to cover in this series. There are two major types of network programming that you can do. There is connected network programming using TCP, and then there's unconnected using UDP. I'll be demonstrating how to create a network manager that will allow you to create a network using either of these methods. Now there's different ways of arranging your network. The way that I'm going to begin is by having a server located in the middle, which will be listening to clients. So you can have multiple clients, and each one will basically form a connection to the server so that the server can talk to it like this. Other networks you can actually create using only clients, meaning there would be no central server that distributes information around. But to start off, this is sort of the easiest way to set up a network, is to have one central repository that communicates to all these other clients on the network. So in the first few VMKs, I'll be showing you how to set up a class so that we can form a TCP connection or a UDP connection between a server and a client, and then between a client and a server. And I'll be demonstrating how to pass data back and forth between them so that you can actually see the actual data that is being sent and received on both sides. Once we have that up and running for both TCP and UDP, I'll describe some of the things that can play a role when you start trying to connect computers together that are not on your local network. You'll notice that there are some firewall issues, port numbers that you need to play with. So I'll go through all these little details so that you understand what's going on in a network so that you can pass data around. Now once we have data being passed back and forth, we need to start looking at how the data is formatted, because the way that the data is formatted will determine on how efficiently we can transmit data. And that goes back to the discussion between TCP communication and UDP communication. So I'm going to talk about data and how to form things called packets. And packets are really just a way to organize data in some sort of structure so that it can be transmitted from the server down to the client, or from the client back down to the server. We need to form some sort of structure so that this communication can happen. Again, depending on who your client or your server is, you need to be aware of the kind of dependencies that the computers have. For instance, if you're transmitting data from a Windows machine to a Linux machine or vice versa, there are certain things that you need to be aware of so that when you are receiving the data, you are interpreting it in the way that it was intended to be interpreted by the sender. Once all the data discussions are complete, then I'll go through and show how to create an application where you can have a chat window between one guy located here and another guy here. So in essence, we're going to be creating a instant messaging kind of system where you could be transmitting data back and forth between PC number 1 and PC number 2, and in real time updating what's showing up here on the screen. Once we have this in place and working, you should have a good understanding of how network programming works so that you can go off and implement these techniques into your own projects. So I hope you find the network programming VMK series interesting, and you'll come back for the next VMK where I'll start talking about the network class that we're going to be developing.